My name is Paul Ju, and I'm the sixth grandchild of Wing and Lin Ong. This is a story about Wing and Lin and the family tree that has grown from the time that they first moved to America in 1929. Our story begins in 1851 when Wing's father, Wing Yep Ong, was born in Ping An Village, which is on the south side of what is now Guangdong Province in China. Wing Yep was born in an era of deteriorating conditions and political instability in Guangdong, caused by opium wars, internal conflicts, and natural disasters. The California gold rush, which began in 1848, created a major pull factor for Chinese immigration to America. News of gold discovery spread to Guangdong, attracting thousands of Chinese laborers who were willing to work in mining camps and later in industries such as railroad construction, agriculture, and fishing. My great-grandfather, Wing Yep, arrived in America in 1868 when he was 17 years old, crossing the ocean in an overcrowded ship. He immediately found work as a Chinese coolie laborer in the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. The Transcontinental Railroad fulfilled the nation's grand ambition to expand westward. The railroad was to connect the Atlantic to the Pacific. Irish immigrants built the railroad going westward, while the Chinese immigrants worked eastward to meet them. The railroad could not have been built without the Chinese. The Chinese railroad workers worked through some of the most difficult terrain imaginable, the Sierra Nevada mountain range. They built 15 tunnels with hand tools and blasting powder. It is estimated that several thousand Chinese men lost their lives working on the railroad. Thankfully, Wing Yep survived working on the railroad, and it was completed in 1869. According to immigration documents, Wing Yep spent most of the rest of his life in San Francisco Chinatown, where he became a merchant and partner in the Kim Lun Chong Company, located at 831 Grant Avenue, just a block from the future store of the Walk Shop, owned by his future granddaughter, Tain Chan. Wing Yep went back to China in 1872, 1886, and 1898. During one of these trips, he married a lady by the name of Zheng Si. Unfortunately, Wing Yep was never able to bring back his wife to America because of the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, which prohibited Chinese men from bringing their wives to America. Wing Yep's and Zheng Si's first son, Wing Do, was born in 1888, and his brother and my grandfather, Wing Yu Dong, was born in 1900. Both were born in the Ping An village. Wing Do came to America in 1908, where he worked at Fremont Grocery Store, a store owned by his cousin, Edward Ga. Wing Do also ran a restaurant and made candy. Wing Do married Lucy Shentz when he was 27 years old. They had three daughters, Irene, born in 1960, Mary, born in 1918, and Lucy, born in 1920. My grandfather, Wing Yu, first came to America in 1920. Wing Yu's entry into America was almost denied because he contracted hookworm during his voyage to America. Thankfully, his father paid $50 to have his son treated, and Wing Yu got well enough to get approved for entry. Up until that time, Wing Yu had never met his father, Wing Yep. Unfortunately, the time my grandfather got to spend with his father was short-lived because Wing Yep died in San Francisco in 1922 at the age of 71. Wing Yep's son, Wing Do, went back to China to bury his father in the village cemetery. Meanwhile, my grandfather, Wing Yu, joined his older brother in Albuquerque. According to his immigration documents, Wing Yu became a partner in the Central Grocery Company, located at 211 West Central Avenue in Albuquerque. Many Chinese immigrants, like my grandfather, became merchants because the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act prohibited them from working in many other industries. Meanwhile, my grandmother, Wang Na Wan, also known as Lin, was growing up in what is now Kaiping, China, not too far from the village where my grandfather was born. Lin was born in 1906 into a very affluent family. Her father was a banker, and he was wealthy enough to hire house servants to meet the needs of all of his family members. In 1928, Wing Yu's mother and Lin's parents arranged for the children to become married. It is my belief that Lin's parents were made to believe that Wing Yu was doing very well in America, and they were sending their daughter to live a life of financial security. In 1928, Wing Yu traveled back to China to marry Lin and then bring her back to America, something that became possible because of new law passed in 1924 that allowed Chinese merchants to bring back a wife from their homeland. On January 14, 1929, Wing and Lin were married in Hong Kong in a Christian custom wedding ceremony. This was the first day that they had met one another. They had a wedding portrait taken, and then they took a joyride around Hong Kong and celebrated their marriage at the Asia Hotel. On February 9, 1929, Wing and Lin arrived in America on the SS President McKinley. According to her immigration documents, Lin was 5 feet 0 inches tall. She stated that she had never worked before and only knew how to read and write in Chinese. One of the things that she made clear in her interview was, quote, "I have never been arrested or supported by charity. None of my family has been treated for insanity. I have never been deported, and I do not believe in polygamy or anarchy. I only have $5 with me, but my husband will support me." After being admitted into America, Wing and Lin made their way back to Albuquerque in February 1929, where Wing fully expected to be employed by his cousin Edward Gaw in Fremont's grocery store. Unfortunately, Edward's and Wing's relationship must not have been very good because Edward reneged on his promise to employ Wing at the grocery store. This was not a great start to Wing and Lin's marriage, especially since Wing was fully expecting to impress his new wife by having a good job and providing well for this young woman who came from an affluent background. Instead, the best job Wing was able to find was as a dishwasher at the Court Cafe in downtown Albuquerque. They rented a small apartment and began their life together. On December 12, 1929, their first son, David Keppinger Ong, was born. Shortly after David's birth, the couple encountered a major crisis. They did not have enough money to pay the rent, and they were threatened with eviction. Wing approached his cousin Edward for help, but Edward refused to bail my grandfather out. Wing, Lin, and their son were evicted. We don't know exactly where they went, but this event must have been very traumatizing to the young couple. Over the next 20 years, Wing and Lin produced a total of 9 children, raising them in the heart of the Burrellis neighborhood of Albuquerque. They endured the poverty of the Great Depression, racial discrimination, language barriers, cultural barriers, and not having family members who would help support them. My grandfather continued to work as a dishwasher at a cafe owned by a Greek family in downtown Albuquerque until Albert Wong, a friend of the family, partnered with my grandfather to open the Chung King Cafe, located near the El Rey Theater on Central Avenue. Wing and Lin were able to save enough money to purchase a small home at 912 Burrellis. Lin sold the jewelry from her wedding trousseau to open up a small grocery store on the corner of the property, reasoning that they would always have food to feed the family by having a grocery store. They raised chickens in their backyard to provide eggs and meat for the family. When the family moved to a larger home in the neighborhood, Lin moved the grocery store along with them. Even though Lin spoke very little English, she became very well liked and respected because she extended credit to her Hispanic clients during difficult times. During Christmas, she would buy several boxes of Brock's candy and have my mother, Jean, write Christmas cards to give to all of her customers. The 1930s and 1940s were very challenging for the Ong family. Their homes had no indoor plumbing. They had to retrieve water from a pump, and a wooden outdoor outhouse served as their bathroom. If they wanted hot water, they had to heat it on their wood or coal-burning stove. They had to wash clothes in the bathtub using a washboard and hang them to dry near the stove. They washed their socks daily because they only had 1 or 2 pairs each. They could never afford enough money to cover their dirt floors with linoleum or wood. The 4 oldest girls, Jean, Kitty, Jane, and Tane, shared one bed. Since Kitty was the smallest, she slept at the foot of the bed and complained about getting kicked by her sisters every night. During World War II, Wing started another cafe in downtown Albuquerque on 4th Street called the U&I Cafe. This became very popular with men serving in the military who were either stationed in Albuquerque or passing through. Later, Lin would blame Wing for opening a cafe that attracted all of these white men who flirted with their daughters. Wing also opened up another grocery store on 3rd Street. During World War II, Wing was the victim of a physical assault because the perpetrators thought Wing was Japanese. Ong children were taunted by their classmates with the saying, "Ching Ching Chinamen," sitting on a fence, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. During the 1940s, the family began investing in real estate. They purchased a home on 5th and Iron where Lin moved the store. The property also had a 2-story apartment building that they rented. They also bought 3 apartments and a house on 417 Lead Avenue that they rented out. In 1950, Wing partnered with my father, Harry Jew, to open the new Chinatown restaurant on East Central. Over the years, Wing made many friends in business at the First Baptist Church, and he became an active member of the Masons and Shriners. As the years progressed, Lin became the chief babysitter of her older grandchildren. In 1998, she was honored with the New Mexico Women's Foundation Buddy Award, an award given to women who set good examples for their daughters in overcoming obstacles such as poverty, gender discrimination, and racial prejudice to lead successful lives. Wing and Lin taught their children to be obedient at home, to work before play, to be thrifty, to study hard, to be respectful of other people, and to be law-abiding citizens. This group photo, taken in 1960, is the earliest known photo to show all 9 Ong children. On that same day, a larger group photo taken with the spouses and grandchildren who existed at that time was also taken. We have modified this photo slightly to revise history. What follows is each branch of the Wing and Lin Ong family tree, which included David, born in 1929, Jean, born in 1931, Kim, born in 1932, Moquette, also known as Kitty, born in 1934, Jane, born in 1936, Tane, born in 1938, Anime, born in 1943, Richard, born in 1944, and Randy, born in 1949. Here is the family tree of David Ong, who was born in 1931. David married Mary Sue, and they had 2 children, Daniel and Joanna. Daniel is still an eligible bachelor. Joanna married Roger. Joanna and Roger have 3 children, Amy, Brent, and Cheryl. Amy is married to John. Brent is married to Hannah, and Cheryl is married to Daniel. Cheryl and Daniel have a son, Harrison David. This is the family tree of my mother, Jean, born in 1931. Jean married my father, Harry Jew. Prior to Harry marrying Jean, he had a daughter named Gina. Gina married King, and they had 2 children, Sherman and Edwina. Sherman is married to Tran, and they have 3 children, Nikki, Kayla, and Devin. Edwina is married to Francis. Jean and Harry had 3 sons, Kim, Stanley, and Paul. Kim's first wife was Susan, and they had a son, Nathan. Kim's second wife is Karen, and their children are Justin and Chloe. Justin is an eligible bachelor. Chloe is married to Bradley. Karen had a son, Ryan, from her first marriage. Ryan is married to Megan, and their children are Frankie and Bennett. Stan is still an eligible bachelor. Paul married Judy, and they have 2 sons, Brandon and Corbin. This is the family tree of Kim Ong, born in 1932. Kim was married to Barbara, and they had 2 sons, Timothy and Joshua. Timothy is married to Lisa, and they have 2 sons, Miles and Judah. Joshua is married to Michaela, and they have a son, Lucas. This is the family tree of Moquette, also known as Kitty. Kitty was married to Gary, and they had 2 daughters, Debbie and Lene. Later, Kitty married George, whom Debbie and Lene regarded as their real father. Debbie married Steve, and they had 3 children, Benjamin, Jason, and Samuel. Benjamin is married to Nicole, and their 3 children are Tristan, Leah, and Hannah. Jason is married to Amy, and their 2 sons are Aiden and Luke. Samuel is married to Martina, and their daughters are Eva and Valerie. Lene is married to Alan, and Alan's children are Alan Jr., Bernadette, and Ashley. Lene and Alan's grandchildren are Kingston, Troy, Jacob, and Hunter. This is the family tree of Jane, born in 1936. Jane was married to Bill, and they had 2 daughters, Zetta and Terry. Later, Jane married Freddie, whom she regarded as the true love of her life. Zetta is married to Jerry. They have 2 children, Scott and Abby. Scott is still an eligible bachelor. Abby's significant other is Alec, and they have 2 children, Ellie Jane and Crew Baker. Terry is married to Mike. They have 2 children, Heather and Matt. Heather is married to Mike, and they have 3 children, Hadley, Quinn, and Lainey. Matt is married to Cassie. This is the family tree of Tane, born in 1938. Tane was married to Elle, and they have 3 children, Mark, Julie, and Lisa. Mark is still an eligible bachelor. Julie's son is Bridger. Lisa's significant other is Chris, and their daughters are Olivia and Ellie. This is the family tree of Anna Mae, born in 1943. Anna Mae was married to Donald. They had 2 daughters, Tiffany and Natalie. Tiffany is married to Robert, and their 3 children are Sophia, Harrison, and Carolyn. Natalie is married to Jeff. Their 3 children are Maddie, Gracie, and Allie. This is the family tree of Richard, born in 1944. Richard is married to Dava. Their 3 children are Kara, Vanda, and Tyler. Kara is married to Paul. Their 3 children are Quinby, Coda, and Annalee. Vanda is married to Bubba. Their children are Cameron, Casey, Julia, and Lily. Tyler is married to Marisa. Their daughter is JoJo. This is the family tree of Randy, born in 1949. Although Randy does not have any children of his own, he has been a wonderful uncle to all of his nieces and nephews. Randy's longtime significant other was Tracy. Over the years, we have celebrated holidays and vacations with one another and mourned together at funerals. Here are a progression of group photos taken of the Ong family through the years. We are all indebted to our ancestors who endured poverty, racial discrimination, language barriers, and cultural barriers so that we could all live a better life. Thank you, Wing Yep. Thank you, Wing Yu. And thank you, Lin.